Hi everyone, I'm Liz, body psychotherapist and biodynamic massage therapist. We're now in our second week of being much more at home. Kids are still at home with us from school, and maybe the novelty of that has a little bit worn off, or maybe not quite yet. We're certainly working from home a lot more. Some of us might have gardens and patios that we can actually access the outdoors a little bit more, but for the vast majority of us, even with the gardens, we would probably have found by now that we're spending a lot more time indoors. We're spending a lot more of our lives online. And even with that one time a day that we're going out, it might not be quite enough. So what I will be doing today is just talk to you a little bit about the importance of grounding and making sure that we are staying grounded, and why we go on about grounding so much as therapists. The other thing would be to look at a couple of exercises that we could be doing ideally outside, whether it's on our one time that we're out daily, or whether it's in the garden. But even if you're indoors like me and you don't have access to a garden, how can we bring the outside in, and how can we pay attention to that connection with the outside world in a very grounded way, in a very mindful way, and in a way in which we can really bring in all the nutrients and the nourishment from the outdoor connection into our bodies as well. Hopefully this will allow us to tap into even more resources that we can use during this time, and allow us to feel still connected to the outside world. So the first thing really that I wanted to touch on is the importance of grounding. So if you think about it in an energetic way, what does grounding feel for you? How do you imagine yourself in a grounded way? And if you tap into your own energetic system, how does it feel to be grounded when you did feel you were? For a lot of people, it would be a heightened attention to the feet and the legs. For others, they might have felt almost like a pull downwards and a sense of rootedness. And for myself, I would say I feel much stronger when I'm grounded. I feel much more able to absorb things that are coming at me. And it makes me feel much more resourceful, for instance. So again, if we are able to, be more grounded in ourselves, we're actually able to react in the best possible way for us to whatever's coming at us from the outside, or also from the inside, because it will have an impact on our emotional well-being as well, and how we're able to deal with our own internal emotions and with our own internal world, and with the weight of all of that. As we are staying more and more indoors, especially, the pressure can really build up, and if we are grounded, we are able to express that in a much better way. So looking at it from an energetic standpoint, in our bodies, really the capacity of grounding is a capacity for the whole body, but is predominantly focused in the legs, or the lower part of the body from the pelvis down. In the joints, especially the ankles and the knees, they are absolutely fundamental for grounding. And of course, the contact of the surface, so from our feet, and all of our weight, or whether it's a biological body weight, or whether it's an emotional and psychological weight, that all has a bearing on that part of our bodies. So to be optimally connected at all time and grounded, we can really resort to our legs and make sure that they are connected to the floor, of course, but not in a rigid way, or not in a in a way that's lacking of energy. So the vitality is very important when we talk about grounding as well. So it's not just about staying still in one place and feeling the connection, but it's also about allowing that flexibility into those parts of our bodies in order for the whole body to be actually flexible enough to absorb, a little bit like a spring, the different pressures that come at us. So I'm just going to be moving a little bit backwards now, just so that you can see the whole body. Hopefully I'm wearing quite loose clothes, so apologies if you can't see it all. But this exercise is really good to do with your feet completely connected to the ground, so without socks or shoes. Of course you can also wear socks if you want, but for me I find it, you know, much better, and I can ground and feel things a lot more quickly if I'm barefooted. Again, you can do it from the garden. That would be absolutely ideal if you can really root your feet in some grass or some earth. That would be absolutely ideal. But if you are indoors like myself, you can just find a spot where you can move a little bit, because we will be doing a little bit of movement, and when we can really feel the connection to the floor that we're standing on. So if we can just start standing in a comfortable position. The main thing here would be to really pay attention to how the weight is on the feet. So if you're finding yourself that the weight is a little bit backwards, just bring it to the center and a little bit maybe on the ball of the feet. Yeah, make sure that the ankles are nice and soft, but especially the knees need to be nice and soft, because if we have the knees locked in, and not sure if you can see from here, so these are my knees just being soft and relaxed, but if I'm locking my knees, I'm actually locking the rest of the body as well. And you can play with this movement, right? So what's happening by locking the knees, and I'll do it sideways as well, by locking the knees, you're actually tensing the whole of the legs and knees, but also into the buttocks and pelvis and the spine, all upwards. Yeah. So what you're doing is a little bit of a soldier pose, where there's a lot of rigidity. There's not much ability to move flexibly, and therefore, although we are braced for something to come at us, we're not able to absorb it quite so well. So this is another thing about grounding. When we are rooted, when we have a real sense of security and safety, and we are so much more able to absorb. I mentioned the spring, but it's really that kind of action of absorbing the impact, whether it's a physical impact, whether you know, from walking or running, or whether it's an emotional and psychological impact from stuff that's coming at us, or even from our internal emotions and our internal emotional system. It is really good that we have that real sense in our bodies of our own flexibility, because that will have an impact as well how we perceive ourselves emotionally as well in our energetic system and emotional system and psychological system. So if we feel in our bodies that we're much more able to absorb things, we will also feel in our psyche that we're much more able to absorb things. And if we feel grounded and rooted in the here and now, we will feel much more safe and much more strong in a way to be able to actually stay grounded in the here and now. And if you think at any emotion, normally things like happiness or anxiety or fear or sadness, these are all emotions that rise up from the bottom all the way out. And if we're not grounded in it, what will happen is that all these emotions will rise up and they will be very volatile. They have lots of places to go to in lots of many different ways, and in our bodies it will feel that there's nothing really pinning it down, so they're just going to be very volatile, going everywhere and anywhere. We lose control over them in a way. And by control I don't mean, again, the rigid control, I must not feel this, I must not say this, but the still a connection with those feelings in a rooted way that actually allow us to express without things slipping out, you know, in the ether of everything. So again, that groundedness is really an anchor that allows us not just to absorb things, but also to express ourselves in a very contained way, in a very safe way for us and for the people around us. Okay, so a few exercises that we can do to really feel that connection to the earth. And some of them might find, you might find them a little bit bizarre, but please stick with me because I find that they do really work. The first thing would be to just pay the attention on the feet and on the legs and the knees. Just make sure that they're nice and soft, and just feel your body and feel your breath coming in and out. And if you can bring it all the way down to the belly, so much the better. That's halfway the step of everything, yeah? And just notice. Notice where the tension is. Notice if your upper body might be relaxed or not. Maybe you hold tension in the shoulders. Maybe you hold tension in your tummy, in your belly area, your diaphragm. Just notice where that is. And we're not asking you to do anything at this point but noticing. Not asking you to change anything. I'm just asking you to feel from a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is the most grounded you've ever felt in your body, and 0 is absolutely not grounded at all. Where are you on that scale? And just notice that. Notice how it feels in your body. Where is it that you would say you feel the most grounded? It might be the same, place of safety that we talked about in the last video. It might be somewhere else. Yeah. I feel my feet are very grounded, and my hands actually are very grounded in a way. I can really feel that connection to the earth. Yeah. But I'm feeling that my head might not be quite so grounded. Just notice that. Notice the muscles, the breathing, and how the energy is moving around you, whether it's going from the up, down, or whether it's just up. Maybe it's just somewhere in the middle. And as you're doing this exercise, just of noticing, you can just start moving your weight. And this is all we're doing. We're still remaining in the same position, and we're just moving our weight forwards. So the talons are still very much firmly on the ground, yeah. But we're just moving our weight onto the ball of our feet as forwards as we can, without losing that contact, that full contact with the feet. And I'm just going to show you sideways as well. So from being pretty much in the middle, we're going to move all the way forwards, yeah. And then we're going to do slowly, we're going to do the same all the way backwards. Again, as backwards as we can, whilst keeping that full connection to the whole of your foot. Yeah, so you're still keeping the full connection on the ground, and you might want to try and going a little bit more backwards. And if you feel that losing that connection, like you're losing it, just bring yourself slightly forwards until you gain that again. Yeah. So we're going to do this again. We're going to go all the way forwards with all this creaking floorboards as well. Yeah, if you have any like mine. And just notice that weight. And notice how actually it impacts your legs. And if you feel that you're actually tensing your legs and you're locking them, so I'm locking mine a little bit, you can just relax them. Yeah, and just see how that changes. And then you move all the way backwards. Yeah, and you can also do it much more slowly, so you can really, bring your attention to the center again, and then backwards. You can play around with it. But what we're doing is we're really focusing the attention on our feet and on the distribution of our weight. And again, if you feel like your legs are tensing or your buttocks are tensing, just relax them. And if that means moving a little bit more forwards, then so be it. This is not a competition at who can go the most backwards. It really is, still finding that place of comfort and just moving the edge of that a little bit, where maybe we're not tensing, but the weight is being moved, so some muscles are actually being called, into being a little bit more active, but certainly not rigid. Okay, and then we just move the weight back on the center. And what we'll be doing now, I'm going to move again, but you will stay in the same position as before, and we'll be doing exactly the same thing but sideways. Okay, so we've done forwards, backwards, we're now going to be moving left, and again we're keeping the weight on both, not the weight, but the contact on both feet. We're not lifting any feet, we're keeping everything firmly on the ground. The whole weight is moved sideways, yeah? And if you feel yourself, again, getting into any rigidity or locking the knees or anything, just bring the weight a little bit further, to the centre, and maybe you can try again, and see how it feels, and just notice your breathing. Notice the weight on your foot. In my case, it's the left foot. Notice the other side of the body as well. How does that feel? And then we're going to slowly move the weight to the other side. Yeah. So for me, it's the right side, but whatever side you picked first, we're just going to move to the other side. And just see how that feels. Yeah. And again, we just keep in contact with the whole of the foot on the floor. And the centre again. Yeah. And then we will just do again all 4 sides. So front, slowly to the back, slowly to the left. And whilst you're doing this, just keep breathing normally. If you find yourself that the breathing is actually not moving and you're not breathing as regularly anymore, just bring your weight a little bit more towards the centre until your breathing actually goes back into relaxation as well. Yeah. Because if the breathing is stopping, then it means we're doing too much. So we're just putting our attention here. Yeah. Okay. And then back into the centre. And if you're doing this outside, or if you're like me, have the window open, just take a moment to notice the weight on the ground, but also the smells that are coming through the window. If you have a natural scene outside, I have some trees that are waving with the wind. Just take notice of those and really breathe it in as you're doing the exercise. So forwards, just breathe in that air, the trees. Really pay attention. I'm sorry if I'm not looking at you, I'm looking at the trees at the moment so we can do the exercise together. But really bring that outside in at every breath. Just pay attention at the weight on your feet and slightly move back and breathe the outside in. Just bring in the nature. It might, whether it's the light, whether it's the breeze, whether it's something that you're seeing or hearing, anything that's to do with the outside world that's relaxing and that brings that sense of nourishment. Just bring that in as you do this exercise. And now to the left. And just keep that attention from your surrounding, from the outside world. Feel your feet on the floor, feel that weight all on the left foot, but that connection with the right as well, and the difference between the two. Your knees are still nice and relaxed, they're flexible, they're not locked at all, and we go all the way to the right. Breathing the outside in and back to the centre slowly. So if you remember that scale that we did from 0 to 10, just notice how you're feeling now. If you're feeling connected to the outside or the inside world, but most and foremost, if you feel grounded and rooted. And notice that if you do feel calm, well, grounded and rooted, you will most likely feel much calmer. Yeah. And it's really that sense of I'm able to let go because I feel really secure in the here and now, in my contact with the earth. And it's going to hold me no matter what happens around me. Yeah. So we're really increasing the level, the tolerance for, the level of tolerance for the things that might come at us or the things that we might be able to deal with without losing contact with ourselves and without losing contact with the earth. Okay. So from now you can relax a little bit, so you might want to move your legs a little bit, yeah? And we're going to do a second exercise that again might feel a little bit strange and weird, but for me it works wonders. And this really works to bring in that awareness in the whole of your body. It really helps bring down the anxiety a few notches. It really helps feeling more grounded and more grounded. So what we will be doing is we're going to start by moving a little bit the foot, and we're going to start moving. We'll start slowly, but then we will go quicker and quicker and quicker, and we will try and be as relaxed as we can in our bodies. So it will be almost like a shaking at one point, okay? But what I want to make sure that you do is that you don't lock your jaws, because that's the first thing that we normally lock. When we shake, we are mobilizing the energy, and with the energy also comes the emotion, because we are mobilizing the diaphragm, which is one of the gateways of our conscious and unconscious emotions. And that's why the breathing, normally working with the breathing, can unlock a lot of emotional material. But by shaking, we are actually mobilizing a lot of energy and a lot of emotional stuff. So normally, another gateway where we lock a lot of our emotions, if they're coming from the, from down upwards, past the first gateway, which is the diaphragm, we can often lock them in the necks and jaws. Okay, so if you try and stay as flexible as you can in your jaw, and sometimes, certainly I do it often, we can bring in some sound as well, and that actually is really good for us, because what that does is, aside from the shaking, which is almost like a vibration in a way, with the sound we will allow all this area to vibrate as well, and all the way into the diaphragm to vibrate. And what that does, it loosens everything up. Yeah. So any tension that we might be feeling, if you remember that, locked knees and that kind of rigidity, that translates on the rest of our bodies as well. By loosening all of that up, we will be able to be much more flexible, and actually we'll be able to be much more grounded and be much more in that spring-like position, if that makes sense. So we'll start with one leg. I'm just going with the right leg, but we'll just start with the foot, and we will just do quick little circles, yeah? And then we will just start kind of moving that a little bit, just as flexibly as we can, almost like as if it's a dead foot almost. Of course it's not dead, it's very much alive, but what I mean in a way that we're kind of really not putting any rigid control on it. Okay, so we're just letting that go. And then we'll be doing the same thing here on the other foot, so we will just rotate this, and then we'll just shake it a little bit. And we're doing this quite slowly, although not too slow, just medium slow, but we're just allowing it to wobble in a way. So we're just doing this this movement here, which will bring a little bit more, of plasticity to everything. And then what we will do is we will put again our feet on the floor, and we will start to move our knees, and I'll show you a little bit sideways, maybe you'll see, but basically like this, okay? So we will just bend one knee at a time, and still staying, with our feet on the floor, just one knee at a time. And then what we will do is just make sure that the rest of the body is nice and relaxed, and we will just start increasing that speed, yeah? So we were going to go from this faster and faster and faster and faster, to the point that it will just start shaking as well. And at the moment we're just shaking the knees really, but you can already see that that shaking is going all the way up, although I'm really not using my arms at all, I'm just letting them loose, letting them be, yeah? So we're just bringing that motion from the knees all the way up into the body, and making sure that the jaws are not locked, And you might see it also has an effect on your breathing, yeah? So just allow your breathing to go in whichever way it goes. And you can bring some sound as well, which would be really good. Just notice how the rest of my body is completely relaxed. And then we're going to go even faster. As fast as you can at this point. And then we're going to bring that all the way up. Yeah. Into our shoulders. Into our arms. We can move them about a bit. And really we will now relax a little bit the knees, and we will just do the shoulders, yeah, so a little bit like a shimmy. And you can play with moving the weight around as well. And now we're going to put the hips into play as well, so just shaking it all around. And back into the knees, and then back up. Into the jaw, and again to the knees, rest of the body. And you can do this for a good amount of time, whatever feels right for you. I'm just going to do a last bit. Really shake it off. And breathe. What you'll do now is you just bring your hands up and then down, and you can do this with your eyes closed. And then you'll just stop whenever you feel the connection to the earth. So whenever you feel almost like, it's a little bit like either a magnet or a little bit like just a very slight resistance, almost as if there's a very tiny layer there. Just breathe in and out, connecting your hands to the earth, to that energy, feeling your feet on the floor. Connecting to the floor as well, and to the earth, making sure that the knees are nice and relaxed, buttocks are nice and relaxed, and if you need to move your weight because it might have been either forwards or backwards, just bring it slightly forwards, not too much, just slightly. Notice your breathing. Has it gone all the way down to the belly compared to how it was before? You might feel energy moving to the extremities. You might feel a pulsation. That is just great. That is just your body moving, being alive, whilst your hands and feet are very much in touch with the earth. And after a few minutes, you can bring the hands up, and again you can do this with your hands, with your eyes open or closed, and just bring the energy all the way down. Your hands will be facing you. Bring the energy into your body. You're not touching your body necessarily, you're just bringing the energy all the way down into the hara, which is the center, where our grounding really is, the energetic center where we ground ourselves as well. And just notice how you're feeling now. From a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 is most grounded ever. How much are you grounded now? And how does that differ with how grounded you might have been before? Take as much time here as you need, breathing the outdoors, with your eyes, the sense of smell, the sound, and of course the touch, the breeze on your skin and the earth under your feet. And for the day, that is all. But if you have any questions at all, or if you want me to explain anything at all to you, or if you want to look into anything else that you think might be useful to you, feel free to comment and get in touch with me. I hope you take care and have a lovely week ahead.